Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here today. Today I'm recording here at the Blessing Tree in Qingdao. It's a magnificent ancient tree that has a little blessings portal if you humbly enter it in a clockwise direction and ask for it. So today I wanted to talk about divine mirrors, the concept of divine mirrors, meaning that we are all reflecting each other all the time. This also connects to what we would call projection. We are constantly reflecting aspects of each other back to ourselves. So, for example, if I encounter a person that, to use a modern terminology that I don't like, but it works, that triggers me, I'm the one with the issue. I'm the one with the issue. I'm the one with the work to be done. If somebody is triggering you, a good question to ask is, who is having the feeling? Who is feeling the tension from that? Well, that person is the one that has the issue that needs to be worked on. Again, this also ties into tend your own garden. Confucius addressed this issue of divine mirrors by saying that if you hate a man, examine yourself. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, if you encounter a person that really triggers hatred or resentment or revulsion in you, turn and look within yourself, because that person is reflecting these things back to you, which are in you. This is also very humbling, because when we realize that, maybe we could say we hate somebody, or at least we hate some characteristics about somebody or their behavior, whatever, that says more about us than it does them, ultimately. It all comes back down to you, doesn't it? Everything is you. Yourself, I mean, not you and excluding me. I mean, it is ourselves. So, in the sense that we are all divine mirrors, reflecting each other all the time, once we become truly conscious of that, we can begin to use that as a way to see into our own blind spots. Blind spots are simply traits within us that we can't see, whether it's conditioning or tendencies or, personality quirks, whatever it is, things we are not aware of in ourselves. And they may also bring to the surface some beliefs or previous conditioning that we accepted or allowed into ourselves, or maybe even fully subscribed to consciously, that cause ugliness or imbalance within us, but that we don't see until reflected upon another back to us. Because we really don't fully see all that we are. We do have blind spots. Just think of the back of your head. What does the back of your head look like? Well, you don't know until the barber puts the mirror up there and says, "How's that?" So we are all divine mirrors. And as such, it is humbling, because when we would project our rejection and judgment and condemnation onto others for the way that we see them being or traits that we see them having, it's not to discount the reality of that. It's to say that that's not the bottom of the truth. That's not the ultimate foundation of what's happening. The ultimate realization of what's happening is within us. And that person is merely being a mirror. And we are also being a mirror in some ways to that person. I wanted to share with you an experience that I had about divine mirrors that it brought me to a state of trembling speechlessness, which doesn't happen often with a chatty guy like me. So, when I left my previous life, the first thing I did was I embarked on this incredible journey of travel all around Asia. Several countries. It was about almost 6 years that I did this. And I, at the time, was getting very, very heavy into travel photography, what I called photojournalism. Photo exploration, excuse me. Because I was capturing all of the moments and experiences during my exploration of these different countries. And so I'll never forget, it was way up in northern Vietnam in the very rural areas around what's called Ha Giang. Kind of a restricted area, you need a permit to get in there and all that. So I was wandering around on a motorbike and exploring wherever. I was just wandering around wherever. Anywhere that I felt led to go would do. And it just about always proved fruitful for what I was looking for. And in retrospect, my thousands and thousands of images, as I looked back on them, I realized that what I was seeking was purity and innocence, because that was the most prominent and sought after quality of the images that I was looking to capture in order to share. And I found myself on this very steep hillside village. It was a Hmong village, Black Hmong. And, I just stopped, got off the bike, threw my camera over my shoulder, and started wandering about the village a little bit, greeting people, saying hello, whoever happened to make eye contact. And then I was drawn to this one little hut, just a small wooden structure, and there was this elderly grandmother who had come to the door, and she was sort of standing in the door frame, communicating the best we could. Of course, neither of us spoke a piece of the other one's language, but through gestures and smiles and eye contact, we were able to actually interact, and I had gotten pretty adept at it by that point. And I asked her if I could make a portrait of her, because I don't like that phrase take a picture, because I'm not removing it from her, I'm creating it of her. So yeah, she was fine, and I made a few snapshots of her, and then I showed them to her in her camera, and it was a delightful interaction. And then as I gazed down, I realized that in the intent focusing on her during the photography, I hadn't noticed that her little granddaughter had sort of peeked behind her skirt and was kind of hanging onto her skirt and peeking out at me. And I looked down at this little girl. I would say she was 3. The purity and innocence that this girl radiated was God. It was God alone. And I was struck by this. She was the most pure and innocent expression of divinity I think I've ever seen. And it is that silences me in reverence. And I asked the grandmother, "Oh, could I also make a picture of the little girl?" She said, "Yeah, it's my granddaughter." I understood that. And I knelt down, and when you do this, I don't want to affect or change the moment or the image in any way at all. And so many times, by me changing a pose or lifting the camera, it destroyed everything that I had seen that I wanted to capture. But with her, she just simply remained still, as if already a divine portrait. And I knelt down and I looked into her eyes. I was just reverent at her. Her purity was just beyond words. And I snapped 2 or 3 shots of her, smiled at her in a thanks, and said goodbye to them and went along my way. I knew what I was feeling when I saw that girl, but I had no idea how profoundly at least for me, it would be captured in that portrait. As I looked at that picture, I could still resonate with that energy that she projected, that I saw, that divinity that I saw in that innocent and beautiful, pure little girl. And it just stuck with me. And I realized soon after looking at that picture a few times, it was just captivating me. I realized that if I had to pick one picture out of approximately 70,000 that I've ever taken that I would call photography, it would be that one as my favorite. And that's a hard choice to make, but I'd have to say that one because of how it has struck me in the core of my being. So I decided to make a print of it, a large print canvas. And when the canvas arrived, I put it on my wall and I marveled at this girl. Not at my photography and my snapshot. It wasn't that at all. It was, look at who she is. This is God. This is what God is. This is God. I see God in this girl's eyes. And then I realized, no, it's more than that. I see God in this girl's eyes, reflecting back God in my eyes. And I kind of just, like a Kramer, like that, I realized God in me is seeing God in her, seeing God in me. And then, because it had been a very large print, I looked more closely into her eyes. And I saw that reflected in the shiny black pupils of her eyes was me. And then it all came together. It was then that I truly understood. I was seeing God in her. It was the God in me that she was reflecting back to me, that I was seeing, that I had not seen on my own. I could not look at that and see that myself. But through her, what had struck me down speechless was actually the divinity that is within me, that she gifted back to me by reflecting it through the divinity in her. I don't know her name. I don't know the name of the village. I don't think I could ever find her again. But sometimes I wonder if I might try and give her a large print of that portrait of divinity, because she has impacted me and given me a gift that I will never forget. And she is the supreme example to me of how we are all divine mirrors. We don't only reflect back to each other our flaws and shortcomings and junk. We also reflect back to each other our divinity. Abide in thankfulness for your highest good, in the most benevolent outcome of the divine will.